someone out there knew that my resolution is to experiment more with more subjects, more materials, more techniques, and Woomer made it really easy because they sent me this, so let's go and unbox it. And here we go. Wow guys, I love the colors. They're so beautiful. Cannot wait to try them. Look. There's also a color chart and we'll make it now. Oh my god guys, look at these colors, they are incredible. I cannot wait to try them. And you know what? It's gonna be my very first time trying color pencils. Okay, obviously I tried them when I was a kid, but I've never tried them as, you know, an artist now that I'm attending an academy. So it's gonna be very, very interesting. I'm very curious to see how they work and what I actually can do with them. You know, right now I'm attending an art academy in Italy where I'm learning to paint with oils, and I'm documenting the whole journey from the very beginning. So if you're curious, check my channel. But here is something I've been noticing. The academy normally gives me a lot of discipline, technique, they teach me a way of seeing, but it doesn't always allow me to play. And that's something I have to go and find on my own. That's why I've been trying to experiment a little bit more, and I decided that this week is gonna be dedicated to color pencils. I have roughly 1 hour each day to experiment. So that's why I made myself a 5-day plan to learn the foundations of color pencils, not just exercises, but something that I can apply to a little work that I can do, because I want to apply the concepts that I'm learning in real time. I've been watching a few tutorials on YouTube on how to use color pencils, the foundations to learn, and I'm gonna sum up everything in here while drawing, you know what? An apple. An apple because most of the people that are doing tutorials draw an apple. It's actually a sphere, so it's super good for basics as well. It's super good for color blending and transitions, so I thought, why not? I even have an apple at home, so I'm gonna try to do it from real life. So that's what we are drawing. Come with me. Before I start actually using these pencils, the first thing I want to do is swatch every single one of them. And if you've never done a color swatch before, this is basically just testing each pencil on paper so you can see exactly how the color looks like when it's applied, not just how it looks in the barrel. Because especially with color pencils, the color you see on the outside can be quite different from what actually comes out on the paper. It's also gonna become a reference I'll use throughout the whole week whenever I'm building layers on the apple and I need to find the right shade of the red or the right shadow tone. I can come back to this chart instead of testing directly on my drawing. Now, something worth knowing about color pencils in general, because not all of them are the same, is that there are two main types, wax-based and oil-based. What I learned from reading about pencils and watching tutorials is that wax-based pencils are the most common ones. They're what most people grew up with, basically. They're soft, they blend easily, but over time they can develop something called wax bloom, which is a kind of white haze that appears on the surface as the wax rises. Oil-based pencils, like these Woomer ones, use an oil binder instead. They're slightly firmer, they don't bloom, and they tend to hold up really well across multiple layers, which for what I'm planning this week is actually perfect. And speaking of layers, let's go closer, I hope you can see. There is a black stripe on the top of the swatch, and these pencils are so pigmented that you can actually see the color even on the top of the black. That's not something I expected, and it's not something you'd get with a basic set of color pencils from a stationery shop, for example. This is going to matter a lot later in the week because one of the techniques I'm going to explore is building up darker and darker layers. And knowing that the pigment is strong enough to show through means I have a lot more flexibility in how I work. Alright, 72 color swatches, reference chart done. On the second day, I'm gonna start drawing. Okay guys, it's the second day. Yesterday we did the unboxing and we tried our colors in the color swatch, but now I want to try my pencils on 3 different papers. This is gonna be printer paper, this is a normal sketchbook paper, and this is pencils paper. So like specific paper for color pencils. After that, I'm gonna start with the first layer of my original drawing, let's say. Come with me. Printer paper is the smoothest of the three. The pencil glides easily and feels almost slippery, not much resistance here. The color goes down quickly, but it fills the paper tube almost immediately. This means that after 2 or 3 layers, you'll feel the pencil skidding rather than depositing pigments. The layering of the 3 primaries looks uneven and it's not possible to push much further without the paper refusing to take more color. Sketchbook papers got more tooth than printer paper, so the pencil grips better and the color feels slightly richer. Layering is noticeably smoother since the 3 primaries blend into each other more convincingly, and it is possible to get more layers in before the tube fills up. The main limitation here though is that sketchbook paper varies a lot, for example by brand. Some are closer to printer paper, some others are better quality, but generally it's a middle ground between the 2 other papers. And finally pencil paper, which is obviously where color pencils are designed to live. The tooth here is deeper and more consistent, which means the pencil keeps depositing pigment even after many layers without skidding, and the 3 primaries layered on top of each other produce the richest, most saturated result of the 3. It's something that's approaching a dark, complex tone rather than a muddy smear. So now I'm gonna use the pencils paper to work on my own little piece. Let's start with the first layer today. Let me sketch it first very quickly with my pencil and eraser, so at least I have the structure that I'm gonna color later. Okay, now that I'm done with the structure of the apple, I can start with the first layers. And as I learned here on YouTube, you always start with the lightest color that you see, area by area. So maybe there are gonna be some areas that I see more yellow as the lightest color, other areas that I see more grayish as the lightest color. So I'll try to go that way. I hope it's the right road. And now the first layer on the apple. Following what I saw in the tutorials, I'm starting with the lightest colors I can see in the reference, the palest yellows, but also the grays from the reflections, and working with the lightest possible pressure. As an oil painter, starting with the lightest colors feels a little counterintuitive. In oil painting, in fact, the golden rule is to start from the darks. Here, it's completely the opposite. You protect the lights by barely touching them, and you build toward the darks gradually. But there is something familiar in the logic. In oils, in fact, you start with thin, diluted paint and add body as you go, fat over lean. Here it's the same idea, light pressure first, more pressure as the layers build up. You're always working from less to more. The medium is different and the sequence is different, but underneath it, the principle of building up gradually is exactly the same. Now that I put the first layer of my apple in, it's time to build some texture. But before that, I want to exercise with doing some gradients from a color to a different color, because I'm not 100% sure on how to layer 2 different colors together and make smooth transitions. So today I'm gonna practice on that before putting another layer of my apple. One of the challenges with color pencils that I'm already starting to feel is transitions, going from one color to another without a visible hard line in between. After all, transitions are still challenging for me in oil painting too. So I picked 3 colors that are close to each other on the color wheel, red, orange and yellow. And I'm doing a simple rectangle where all 3 transition into each other smoothly. The key I'm finding is to start each new color before the previous one ends. You don't finish the red and then start the orange. You bring the orange in while the red is still going, overlapping them in the middle zone with light pressure back and forth until the line between them disappears. And then the same thing between orange and yellow. It sounds simple, but it takes a few attempts to feel natural. I think I got it on the second or third layer, especially coming from oil painting where you can physically push and pull wet paint into itself. Here you cannot. Every transition has to be built stroke by stroke, layer by layer. Here's my gradient. from far it works, from close it also works, I would say. Maybe some areas can still be smoothened out a little bit, especially this darker towards the lightest yellow, but overall it works. Okay, what we do here now is that we proceed with the second lightest color that we see. So above this yellow, for example, I see a more orangey texture, not everywhere. Some parts will just remain yellow, but then I will go with some more red here and some darker red here, for example. Let's go. Second layer on the apple now, and I'm going one step darker. Still light pressure, but a slightly deeper tone than what I put down yesterday. And this is the moment where color pencils start to make sense to me. Because, I mean, look at this. The first layer doesn't disappear under the second one, but it shows through. The two colors are sitting together, and what you're seeing is both of them at once. It's generally similar to oil glazing, where a transparent layer of color modifies what's underneath without erasing it. That luminosity, that sense of depth, it's already starting to happen, even at just 2 layers in. And that makes me very, very curious about what 4 or 5 layers in is going to look like. The other thing I'm being intentional about today is stroke direction. My apple has these beautiful curved red stripes running along its shape, so I'm following those lines with my pencil rather than going in random directions. And even at this early stage, it's already giving the apple a sense of roundness. The marks in fact are wrapping around the form rather than just filling it in flat. And here we go with the second layer of the apple. It's already so much better than before, right? It started taking shape and it looks way more like an apple. It is day 4 and today's session is gonna be for putting more and more layers on this apple until the final stages. The final stage, which is called burnishing, I found out, is gonna be for tomorrow. But today, yes, I've dedicated my time to layer it up and make it more apple-like, let's say. This is where things get serious. Today I'm pushing the apple into its darker tones, building up layer after layer, gradually increasing the pressure, going deeper into the shadows and the richest areas of color. And the more layers I add, the richer everything becomes. I don't mean muddier, I mean richer. In fact, each layer isn't covering what's underneath, it's amplifying it in some way. The colors are gaining a depth and a vibrancy that simply wasn't there at layer 2 or 3. It feels almost like the drawing is slowly waking up. Do you see it too? It's so cool. This is also the day where I'm really starting to notice the quality of these Woomer pencils. Because layering is exactly where a cheap pencil will let you down. Apparently the pigments runs out, the colors go dull, the layers stop adhering, but that's not happening here. The pigmentation is holding up beautifully across every pass and they are layering in a way that feels genuinely controlled. And although I'm just a beginner with color pencils, I can definitely feel the difference between what I'm putting down here and what I would get from a basic set as the ones I used when I was a kid. Okay, and now the final step to my apple. Today I'm putting the final layers on. I'm gonna do what it's called burnishing. Burnishing is the actual final layer when you press harder on the paper and you smooth the tooth of the paper. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do and I'm gonna finish my apple. As I was saying, today is about burnishing. Burnishing is the technique where you increase your pressure significantly and push the pigment deep into the remaining tooth of the paper, melding all the layers together into something smooth, saturated, and unified. It's almost the opposite of everything I've been doing up until now. Where every previous layer was about restraint and lightness, this one is about intention and pressure. And what happens is remarkable, because the colors become almost luminous, like they've been polished from the inside. For the burnishing pass, I'm going back in with the lighter colors. Yellows, grays, soft reds, on top of the darker layers already there. And rather than covering them, they're blending everything together, pushing the pigment into a single cohesive surface. Also, one thing I've been doing throughout the whole week that I haven't mentioned yet is that I'm constantly keeping my pencils super sharp. With color pencils, this matters more than you think. A sharp point deposits color precisely and cleanly, especially in the earlier layers. A blunt one drags and smears and fills the paper tooth unevenly. And especially in this layer, when I'm pressing harder, I'm sharpening pencils almost obsessively, every few minutes on the detailed areas. And here we go guys with the final result. What do you think? In the past 5 days, in 5 steps, I learned the basic foundations of color pencils and applied them to the drawing of this apple. And although my main medium is oil colors, I extremely loved working with color pencils, and I think I will keep using them from time to time in the future. For example, I already know that the next drawing I want to do is the drawing of a hand to practice skin tones, which are my obsessions in oil colors. And you know, obviously the more you practice with a medium, the more proficient you become. And by looking at this apple, I think I prefer the apple at day 4. Since right now, the burnishing stage, I think I went a little bit too hard and I didn't manage to do such a great work with the gradients and transitions, so some parts may look a little bit sharp. And if you made it to this point of the video, let me know, do you prefer the day 4 result or day 5, so the final result? I'm really curious to know that. Maybe by practicing with color pencils, one of my next videos in 1 year time or so is gonna be a masterpiece in color pencils, who knows. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If that's the case, leave a like, subscribe to my channel, and I really hope to see you in the next video. Bye!